I changed my name because my parents named me Corstell Crystal. My parents actually looked at a newborn baby and thought, let's spell Crystal like we're trying to unlock a cheat code. For 18 years, I dealt with this disaster of a name that looked like someone sneezed while typing. Every first day of school was the same nightmare. Teachers would get to my name on the roll call and just stop, dead silence. Then they'd attempt some butchered pronunciation like Kirill or Questley. I'd have to raise my hand and say, it's just Crystal, but spelled like my parents hate me. The worst part wasn't even the pronunciation, it was the assumptions. People would see my name written down and immediately think I was some exotic foreign exchange student, or that my family was super religious. I got asked if I was Muslim at least once a week. Random people would come up to me asking what country I was from, or what language my name came from. I'd have to explain that now. My parents just thought they were being creative when they were really just being cruel. My mom was the worst about it. She'd email every single teacher at the beginning of each school year with a whole paragraph about how to pronounce my name correctly and the cultural significance behind the spelling. There was no cultural significance. She just saw the name Crystal in a baby book and decided to make it look fancy. When I was 15, I started telling people to just save my name as Crystal in their phones. It made everything easier. But my mom found out when she saw a text from my friend Jess that just said Crystal, and she completely lost it. She grounded me for 2 weeks and made me write apology letters to all my friends, explaining the proper way to spell my name. That's when I knew I was changing it the second I turned 18, the day after my birthday. I marched down to the courthouse with all my paperwork. The clerk was super nice about it. She even said she'd seen worse creative spellings, which honestly made me feel a little better. The whole process took about 3 weeks. And when I got that official document saying my name was legally Crystal, I felt like I could finally breathe. I didn't tell my parents right away. I figured I'd ease them into it. Wrong move. My mom found out when she tried to add me to her car insurance, and they couldn't find me under Corstell anymore. She called me screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. She was crying and yelling about how I betrayed the family and destroyed something beautiful she created for me. You stabbed me in the back, she kept saying. I gave you something unique and special, and you threw it away like garbage. I tried to explain that having a name nobody could pronounce or spell wasn't special. It was just annoying. But she wasn't hearing it. She said if I didn't change it back, she cut me off completely. No more help with college, no more family dinners, nothing. That's when I snapped. I told her exactly what I thought about her creative spelling and how it screwed up my entire childhood. I said she was selfish for caring more about her own ego than how her choices affected me every single day. You never once asked me how I felt about having to explain my name to every person I met. I said, you just cared about being different. My dad tried to play peacemaker, but he's always been too scared to stand up to my mom about anything. He just kept saying, maybe we can all calm down and figure this out, while my mom threatened to disown me. The final straw was when she showed up at my apartment with my birth certificate and demanded I go back to the courthouse to change it back. She said she'd pay for everything and even offered me money to do it. When I refused, she started crying again and said I was an ungrateful brat who never appreciated anything she did for me. I looked at her and said, go screw yourself for giving me 18 years of problems and then acting like I'm the bad guy for fixing them. She hasn't talked to me since. And honestly, the silence was louder than any of her screaming ever was. At first, I kept checking my phone out of habit, expecting one of her dramatic messages or guilt-tripping voicemails. Nothing came. Days turned into weeks and the quiet started to feel peaceful. That scared me more than the fighting ever did. I realized how much of my life had been shaped around anticipating her reactions. What would upset her? What would offend her? What version of myself would keep the peace? Without that constant noise, I didn't know who I was supposed to be anymore. My dad tried reaching out a few times, but every conversation felt like he was calling from inside a cage he refused to open. He'd say things like, you know how your mom is, as if that explained everything, as if her behavior was some force of nature instead of a choice she made over and over again. I finally told him I wasn't mad at him, but I was done pretending this was normal. He went quiet after that, and I think that hurt him more than yelling ever could. Changing my name didn't magically fix my life, but it removed a constant daily irritation I hadn't realized was weighing me down so heavily. The first time I introduced myself as Crystal and didn't have to follow it up with a spelling lesson, I almost cried. Baristas stopped asking me to repeat myself. Professors didn't stumble awkwardly over attendance. Doctors' offices stopped calling out something that sounded like a rejected pharmaceutical drug. I just existed and that felt incredible. But my mom wasn't done. Even if she wasn't speaking to me directly, She started telling extended family her own version of the story. I'd get random messages from aunts and cousins saying things like, "Your mother is heartbroken," or names or gifts from parents. You don't just throw them away. One cousin even told me I was being disrespectful to my heritage, which was funny considering there was no heritage involved, just my mom's Pinterest board level creativity. I stopped replying after a while. I realized that anyone who only heard her side and didn't bother to ask mine wasn't actually interested in the truth. The irony was that my name had never felt like a gift. It felt like a performance I was forced into every day. My mom loved introducing me to people just to watch their confusion. Loved correcting them with that smug little smile. Loved explaining how special and different I was. Meanwhile, I was the one dealing with substitute teachers mocking it, classmates turning it into jokes, official documents getting messed up, and constantly having to justify something I never asked for. It wasn't individuality, it was inconvenience wrapped in ego. One night, a few months after everything blew up, I found an old box while unpacking some storage. Inside were childhood drawings, school awards, and a crumpled piece of paper from second grade where I'd written my name over and over again, practicing the spelling. I stared at it for a long time. Even back then, it looked wrong, overcomplicated, like it didn't belong to me. That was when it really hit me. This wasn't a sudden rebellion. This was something I'd been quietly carrying since I was a kid, waiting for the moment I could finally put it down. I didn't hate my parents. I hated that my mom couldn't separate her identity from mine. That she saw my name as something she owned instead of something I had to live with. The moment I changed it, I stopped being an extension of her and became my own person. And she couldn't handle that. The last message I ever sent her was simple. I didn't apologize. I didn't explain. I just said, "I'm happy now. I hope someday you care more about me than the idea of me." She never responded. Over time, I started noticing how many choices in my life had been shaped by trying not to upset her. The clothes I wore, the way I spoke, the things I downplayed so she wouldn't accuse me of being ungrateful. Changing my name was just the first boundary I ever truly enforced, and once I did it, the rest started to follow. I stopped over-explaining myself. I stopped apologizing for existing. I stopped shrinking. Some people still ask why my parents don't talk to me. I tell them the truth. But without the bitterness, I say, they couldn't accept a decision I made for myself. That's it. No drama, no villain monologue, just facts. And every time I sign my name on a lease, a form, a job application, it feels like reclaiming a piece of myself that never should have been taken in the first place. My name is Crystal. Simple, clear. Mine. Story to my cheating wife arrogantly declared, "Listen to me, if you file for divorce, I'll leave you without a penny. You'll have to pay, not only for the divorce itself, but also alimony to me and child support. You'll also lose custody rights over the children, so I'll continue having fun with my lover." I snapped back, "Do you really think I'll tolerate and support you in such a lifestyle?" She laughed, "You have no other choice. There are moments in life when reality hits you so hard it knocks the air right out of your lungs." This was any of those moments. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was stunned. I stood in the kitchen of the home I built with my wife Julia, the same kitchen where we had once celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, and lazy Sunday mornings with our kids. But today it felt like a courtroom. Julia stood across from me, with a wine glass in one hand and venom in her voice. "Listen to me," she said, her tone sharp, her eyes cold. "If you file for divorce, I'll leave you without a penny." I blinked. She wasn't crying, she wasn't sorry. She was smirking, almost proud. "You'll have to pay for the divorce," she continued. "And then alimony, child support, and don't even think about custody. You'll lose." I clenched my jaw, the air around me thick with disbelief. Julie and I had been together for 11 years. We had 2 kids, a house, a life I thought we built together. I had sacrificed my 20s for our family, worked extra hours, skipped vacations, and made sure Julia had everything she ever wanted. And now she was telling me that not only had she moved on, but that she expected me to finance her affair. "I'll continue having fun with my lover," she said, casually swirling her wine, "and you'll keep paying for everything." That's when I snapped, "Do you really think I'll tolerate and support you in such a lifestyle?" I asked, my voice low. She didn't hesitate, she just laughed. "You have no other choice." That laugh, that arrogant, cruel little laugh. That was the moment something inside me broke, but not in the way she expected. I didn't beg. I didn't threaten. I didn't even shout. Instead, I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." And in that moment, I knew exactly what I was going to do. The moment Julia laughed in my face, something inside me flipped. I stopped being the man she thought she could control. No more playing the nice husband, no more sacrificing my dignity. I didn't need to scream, I didn't need to threaten. Instead, I got quiet, focused, deadly, because if she wanted war, I was going to give her one she'd never recover from. But first I had to play it smart. That night, after her arrogant declaration, I didn't storm out. I didn't sleep on the couch. I didn't even look angry. Instead, I kissed our kids good night, had dinner as usual, smiled at her, Like nothing happened that confused her, and confusion was step one of breaking someone like Julia. She wanted drama, she wanted a reaction. But I wasn't giving her the satisfaction inside. I was already 10 moves ahead the next morning. I scheduled a meeting with the best family law attorney in the state, someone with a reputation for protecting fathers and dismantling manipulative spouses in court. I paid in cash, no paper trail. I told them everything: the affair, her threats, her arrogance, her belief that she could destroy me financially, and walk away laughing. My lawyer, he smiled. Don't worry, you're not the first guy to sit in this chair. And she's not the first woman who thought she'd win by default. That's when he handed me a checklist: separate bank account, open it, secure documents, gather them. Custody. Preparation, start documenting everything that night. While Julia scrolled through Instagram in bed laughing at messages from her lover, I was in the office, scanning pay stubs, tax returns, mortgage documents, and insurance policies. She didn't even notice that was her second mistake for weeks. I said nothing, I smiled, I played the role. But behind the scenes, I installed security cameras inside and outside the house with audio. I activated a recording app on my phone. Every time we spoke, I started journaling everything she said about the kids, money, the affair, timestamped, organized. She was so comfortable, she had no idea I was preparing a file so thick, so airtight, that even the most biased judge would tear her apart in court. One evening, while she was out on one of her work dinners, I checked the GPS tracker I placed under her car. She wasn't at dinner, she was at a cheap hotel on the outskirts of town. And her boss was married with kids. I took pictures, video, screenshots of messages since from our shared cloud, because she never logged out. The woman thought she was a queen, but she was about to be dethroned in the most brutal way. Julia spent less and less time with the children as her affair deepened. She missed bedtimes, skipped school meetings, forgot important appointments. I didn't say a word. I just showed up for the kids, every recital, every soccer match, every parent-teacher conference. I documented everything when they cried at night asking, "Where's mommy?" I comforted them and recorded the moment, because in a custody battle, consistency wins. And I was becoming the rock they relied on. 6 weeks passed. Julia thought I was broken. She even said one night smugly, "You're finally being mature about this. I guess you're accepting that this is just how life is." I smiled and replied, "Sure, Julia, whatever you say." She kissed my cheek and left to go for drinks with friends. I waved goodbye from the porch. But she didn't know the divorce papers were already prepared. The evidence file was ready. Her lover's wife had just found out too. And hell was about to begin. Revenge isn't loud, it's quiet, methodical, surgical. The best revenge doesn't erupt in a single explosion, it peels away their world piece by piece until all they have left is a realization that they destroy at themselves. And for Julia, that day had come. The sun was shining the morning she got served. She was sipping coffee at the dining table, scrolling her phone like she didn't have a care in the world, until a knock at the door changed everything. I stood behind the curtain, watching as she opened it. "Julia Adams," the process server asked politely. "Yes." The moment he handed her the divorce papers, her smile collapsed. I walked out of the kitchen with my own cup of coffee, calm as ever. "Surprise," I said. She flipped through the stack of documents, and I could see it in her eyes. "Panic, you're divorcing me?" I nodded. "Based on adultery, neglect, and emotional abuse should be an easy case," she scoffed, trying to recover. "You won't get away with this, you'll still pay me alimony." "I'll get the kids." I held up a flash drive. "Not with what's on here, you won't." 3 days later, it got worse. Her lover's wife, Vanessa, found my number. We met privately. I shared what I had: GPS logs, messages, hotel check-ins, photos. Her face didn't twitch once, then she said, "Thank you, now I know how deep it runs. I'll handle my end." That evening, while Julia was at work, Vanessa stormed into her office, walked right up to Julia's desk, and slapped divorce papers of her own on the table. Julia's co-workers watched the entire scene unfold. Vanessa didn't stop there. She announced loudly and clearly who Julia had been sleeping with, how long, and how many times company resources had been used to support their affair. HR was looped in, her AP suspended pending an internal ethics review. Julia publicly humiliated. But that was just Act 1. 2 weeks earlier, I had restructured everything, all assets protected in my name, bank account separated, joint credit cards closed, her car lease canceled. I was a primary signer, health insurance removed from my plan. The moment she was served, her card declined at the salon, then again at the grocery store. She called me in a rage. "You're cutting me off. I'm protecting myself legally. My lawyer advised it. You can speak to yours." Click. She thought she'd ruined me. She had no idea I had rebuilt everything behind her back. Our first court hearing arrived. Julia walked in wearing designer heels, probably charged on one of the last purchases she made. Before I froze the cards, she smirked at me across the courtroom, but her confidence crumbled fast, because my lawyer laid out everything: her absences from the children's lives, testimonies from teachers and babysitters, security camera footage showing her coming home at 2 a.m. 3 nights a week, messages between her and her AP discussing getting rid of the deadweight, aka me, audio of her saying, "I'm not giving up the fun just to play mom all the time." She piled. Her lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "The judge," he barely asked. A question before saying primary custody to the father visitation schedule. Pending further evaluation, and just like that she lost the one card she thought would guarantee her power. Her affair exposed at work and in court, her lover out of a job and facing his own divorce. Her family disgusted, her friends gone, her financial support cut off, her children with me. Whether safe and loved, she called crying, begging to just talk. I didn't pick up. 1 month later, I dropped off the kids at a supervised center for her short visitation. She looked like a ghost of the woman she once was, tired, worn down, and no longer smug. As I buckled my son's jacket, I heard her whisper, "I made a mistake." I paused, met her eyes. "You made a choice," I said. "This is the consequence." Then I walked out, and for the first time in months, I felt free. Rock bottom wasn't a place, it was a mirror, and Julia was finally forced to look into it. No makeup, no applause, no lies left to hide behind, just the truth, and it was ugly. Her lover gone the moment Vanessa's lawyers filed for divorce and took half of everything. He folded like wet cardboard. He tried to crawl back to his wife. Didn't work. He ghosted Julia shortly after. She called him 5 times in one day, blocked her job. HR let her go quietly due to departmental restructuring, they said. But everyone knew the truth. Word had spread about the affair, the office drama, and the public takedown. Vanessa had orchestrated her reputation ruin. She had once been respected, polished, the kind of woman people envied. Now she was a walking cautionary tale. She sent me a letter handwritten for pages long, full of apologies, regret, excuses disguised as reasons. She said she missed the kids. She said she missed me. She asked if there was a small part of me that could try again. She ended it with, "You always saw the best in me. Maybe you still can." I folded the letter, sealed it in an envelope, and mailed it back. Inside only one note: "I did see the best in you, just made sure I never see it again." A month later, I was awarded full custody. She was granted supervised visitation twice a month pending her completed parenting classes and counseling. She didn't show up for 2 sessions the court took notice. Then she tried to delay the divorce ruling. Her new lawyer requested mediation. I agreed. Why? Because I wanted her to think she had a shot, that maybe there was still a chance she could claw something back. We sat down at the mediation table. Her eyes flickered with a trace of hope. I didn't speak for the first 20 minutes. Just let my lawyer do all the talking. Then finally I leaned forward, pulled out the folder. Inside, proof of her affair, proof of her financial lies, proof of her neglect to the children, proof that she had signed away any rights to the marital home months